Warning, this podcast contains alcohol and reference to alcohol. You must be at least 21 years of age to watch or listen.
Holladay Happy Hour presented by the Holladay Distillery in Weston, Missouri. I'm Jordan, and today I have a very special guest who I just picked up from the airport a couple hours ago that we're excited to have on the couch here. We have Tyler Zoller joining us from Louisville. You may know him as LouisvilleBourbonBuzz on the online platforms.
She actually didn't know me until she picked me up from the airport. So it is kind of awkward, but we're having a good time.
We're having a good time. I poured him a bourbon. I'm like, let's break the ice here. We'll make it fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's not wrong. I'm like, I've seen him online. There he is. Yeah, let's get in the car. But all good. So we're excited to have you. This is your first time in Weston.
Thank you all for having me on this. This is great. Yes, my first time in Weston. You drove me down the one block of it, and it's beautiful.
Yes.
I told you earlier I love historic towns, and that's pretty freaking historic out there.
It's very historic. We haven't even gotten to really dive in and see it just yet, so I'll be excited to see what your thoughts are on it when we're all said and done. But you haven't even gotten to see the distillery yet. This is all very new.
Literally no. You picked me up in a car, and now I'm here. So.
Yes, I did. Yeah. I did. We did a brief drive-by, and we're ready to get to know each other. So,
for sure.
So you have done a lot of things on digital media here. You actually have a professional background in photography and a lot of experience. So I just kind of want to dive right in, and I want you to tell me a little bit, how did your world collide with your photography business and bourbon? So I guess kind of what was your start with bourbon?
So I've been a photographer now for, let's just say 18 years.
Oh.
But I've been full-time for 15. I started in 8th grade. And then I started kind of going full-time towards the latter part of my high school time. And then worked through college and all of that, retail Joe jobs, and then continued that outside of that and started to kind of make, consistent income off of it. But basically when they merged was in 2015. I was still doing portraits, and I started to kind of get into bourbon. And I guess even a little bit before that, I actually didn't drink any alcohol until I turned 21. I did try Miller Lite at a house party at the ripe old age of 16.
Ooh.
Hated it, and then was like, well, I'm going to continue not drinking. And then the day I turned 21, I was like, I don't know. Drinking seems pretty tough.
Seems kind of cool.
Right, and it seems like a pretty good time. So I got into bourbon, shall I say whiskey, because my dad, when I turned 21, went down into the basement, and he whipped out probably a bottle of Jack Daniels that his dad gave him at some point. And, still had the original tax stamp on it, vintage Jack Daniels. And we cracked that. It was terrible. But what I always went back to was that, I tasted things on it that I didn't really think you were supposed to taste on whiskey. I thought whiskey was just a shooter. But I enjoyed the moment that I shared with my dad. So that's in, around 2015 is when I started LouisvilleBourbonBuzz. Was still doing photography full time, and I was just like, oh, I can take pictures of this inanimate objects that's not a person and post it on the internet. And that's really where it kind of started. My love for photographing whiskey and bourbon and all of the above, that in any and all spirits really, but whiskey is where my heart's at, obviously. And that's just kind of fluttered through the years, and then 2020 happened, and that's when I really was like, okay, by 2022 I want to be full-time just doing bourbon-related photography and content, and here we are in 2024, and it's actually happened.
Wow. Yeah, you just recently hit some milestones on Instagram. You have started, I know you're on TikTok, and we kind of started to talk a little bit before this about TikTok, and I just really don't know much about that world.
TikTok is a toxic place, in my opinion. It's a place that no one should really be. But I'm there from 9:30 to 10:30 at night when I'm doom scrolling in bed. It's my humor. It's where I go for my entertainment release. I don't go there for anything else. It's just strictly entertainment. And I post over there from time to time. I don't create content for TikTok specifically.
Okay.
I just cross-post things from Instagram. And I don't know, it's for some other reason I just don't like the community over there.
Okay.
And I think that's just because I've worked so hard on my Instagram community and growing it, because I always looked at this Louisville Bourbon Buzz, that be, as kind of my marketing department for my photography. And so Instagram is obviously the more professional outlet between those two, in my opinion, when you're looking at long-term job and building a foundation. TikTok is going to be more of that foundation on content only, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like influencers and content creators, I think, can thrive on TikTok. They have great payout over there. But Instagram, I think, you know, this isn't just content creation for me. This is a lifelong career that I want to build out of it too.
Yeah. Well,
So.
you started on the content creation side in a different way with
sure.
your photography and all that. So I can see it's probably more of like also an artistic outlet for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
To kind of do what you see versus just like working for a client as well.
Right. And
which
it's
is
kind
really
of
cool.
crazy where I was really forced into what I'm doing now, and I hated it at first, but now I love it because it's brought me here. You know, it's brought me some insane opportunities. Because, you know, I was the guy that held out as long as I could to start posting reels. And I was the dude that was posting like a photo that I put 4 hours of work into for, you know, 125 likes on Instagram. And then I post one reel where I say something stupid about a bourbon and it gets 500 likes. I'm like, damn it. Now I got to start fucking recording myself in the basement and doing reels. So here I am 2 years later. But again, like I said, it brought me here. It's given me countless opportunities and memories and things to you know, kind of look back on over the years. So
That's
it's all
awesome.
worth it.
It kind of sounds cliche, but it's like when you go into something new and kind of the unknown and maybe you don't want to do it, but then
Yeah,
it ends up working
you
out.
find a way to make it still work with what your original goals were. And that's what I've been working on and still working on to this day, but you know, that's also part of the fun of it for me too.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
speaking of adapting, so you have recently started a YouTube channel. How's that going?
I don't like it. Now, let me rephrase that before people are like, oh, well, then I'm going to unsubscribe. It is a whole other being. I mean, to me, Instagram is like, yeah, I put a lot of time and effort into what I do, but YouTube is like, you're talking days of commitment to get that content. And especially if you're like doing vlogs. Case in point, I was going to try to vlog this whole trip. Have you seen me vlog anything yet?
We're having too much
It's
fun,
so
Tyler.
much work
There's
to
no
just
time.
think about like, oh, I should probably whip out my camera and record this 2-second clip so that I can put a voiceover to it later. So, and obviously I'm still in my infancy of that channel, so I'm still learning how that workflow is going to work for me. But yeah, I'm excited to do it. It's something I've wanted to do for a long time. I've been saying I was going to do it since February, and what is it now? June 21st or something. So yeah, I prolonged a little bit,
That's
but
not
that's
bad.
fine.
Yeah.
You know, that's part of growing and figuring out what you want to do. But yes, nonetheless, I'm excited to do it, but it's just going to be so much more work than what Instagram is, and that's saying a lot at that point too.
Yeah, it'll be a new challenge, that's
Yeah.
for sure.
But I'm ready for it, and
Yeah.
I think the future on there is big. So I'm hoping that I can pull over that Instagram community to YouTube, but hopefully build on top of that with a whole new realm of people that didn't know of me before.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question, is if you think a lot of people will come over, because I don't know about how
It's-
people cross over with their
It's tough. I
preferred
was actually really
platforms.
surprised. I think the number that I got of subscribers the day that I posted that I was doing it, I was actually surprised by it. It was very small. But, you know, I went into it where, like, if I get 20 subscribers for my Instagram, I'm going to be stoked. I've learned through the years, professionally and content creation-wise, that people can love you, but they don't love you enough to follow you everywhere. So it's like, and also you're looking at two different types of content. And that's why I'm never going to use YouTube content for Instagram content, because people don't want that. They want their own thing on Instagram that's short form. And then the people that want to dedicate 5 to 25 minutes of their time to you on YouTube want to dedicate that. So it's always just trying to find that balance of keeping the people entertained on that side, but how can I bring the short form content viewers onto that side that want to stick around long enough?
That makes total sense. And I also think with YouTube, in my experience, I may not always be watching the video, but I
Correct.
might be listening if it, you know, Bluetooth
Right.
in my car as I'm driving, or there's different ways where you don't have to do a full-blown podcast, because we talked about that's a whole nother beast, but it's like you can still
it can
engage
be
with that audience.
almost kind of like what regular TV is for me. Like we still have YouTube TV, and it's like we don't watch it, but it's just on in the background. It's just like filler noise. It's almost just like music. And yeah, on the plane, I was watching YouTube on the way over here. So that's why I ended up diving into it, because I consume so much YouTube content that I was like, I guess I should be a part of that pool. So, and it's a very vast pool.
Well, and then you probably, if you watch YouTube, you know kind of what works and what doesn't, or you'll kind of dive into that and see.
Maybe.
I don't know.
We'll see. Yeah, we're along for the ride, you know.
Time will tell.
And again, like I think it's similar, but I think it's also vastly different than Instagram. But like Instagram, what works one day may not work a month from now. So you have to constantly ebb and flow with what the trends are.
Yeah.
So
it's never boring, I'm sure, to keep up and
yeah,
to learn.
It always keeps you on your toes, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So with these pages, though, you do get to sip a lot of bourbon and a lot of whiskey.
Yeah.
So how do you decide what you're going to feature or what your next post is going to be? What does that decision process look like for you?
So a lot of people hate me for this. It's actually one of the main things that people comment on my post that I have to decide, do I block them? Do I delete the comment? What's the stitch going to be with these people? Is that I made a post probably about a year ago where it started off with me saying, this is the worst bourbon I've ever tasted. I can't talk about it. And then I was like, see how harsh that sounds? Then I peeled back the curtain and I basically said that I don't review whiskeys that I do not like.
Okay.
And, you know, so many of these people put their blood, sweat, and tears and every dollar they have into a bottle. And if I don't like it, that doesn't mean you're not, you know? And who am I to post on a platform where I use my voice to say that this is the worst thing I've ever tasted, to stop someone else from going to buy that because they trust my opinion? So when it comes down to what I do, some of my reviews are blind, but it's from a brand previously that I already know I trust or have liked their other stuff, so I'm going into it assuming that I'm going to like it. Or I kind of vet it a little bit before and, you know, take a small neck pour of it and just see what it tastes like, and if it's got enough for me to kind of sit on and talk about, then I'll review it. There's tons of whiskeys that I've gotten that I don't review. And I tell to a lot of people that send me bottles, like, hey, if I try this and I don't like it, I'll let you know. Like, it's not going to be on the page. And if they want to talk to me about it, like, I will disclose why I don't like it. Because I think constructive criticism is very beneficial. But there's no reason in a public sense to bash something on the internet. I wasn't raised that way, and my heart's just not in it to, like, crush somebody's soul because they sent something to me that they think I'm going to like. And I'm like, I mean, what if I was like, yeah, it tastes like dog water? Like, how much is that going to crush that person, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I guess in a roundabout way. The way I pick it is if it's good, I'll put it on my page. And if it's an experience that I believe in, I'll also put that on my page.
That is one of the best answers I think I've heard, honestly. And I mean that because it's true. You don't want to make somebody feel badly for something I might love.
Right.
Like, and that could miss out on a sale or an opportunity for somebody else to connect. And yeah, you don't want to do that.
And I just get so many comments on my post where it's like, I don't even have to watch your stupid video. It's like, you're going to say you love it. And I'm like, yeah, cool. You learned me. You know how I am. Again, there's just no reason to be negative. We've already got enough of that out there. So if I can be one drop in the pond of positivity, then that's my goal.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Speaking of, there is a lot of negativity. So do you personally experience negativity, and how have you kind of worked through that to not let it bother
I'll be
you?
completely honest. I mean, if any of the people that comment negative on my post see this, they'll feel that they won. But it gets to me. It sucks. I'm human. We're all human. We can comment and say, oh, nice try, Jim Bob. You know, you offended me on the internet. But it's like, you know, it sucks.
Yeah.
Like to pour your heart and soul into something and then for somebody to be negative, it sucks. How many times can I say it sucks? Can we get an it sucks counter? You know, it's one of those things that what I've done to kind of work with it is I've finally found a time where if they're not calling me anything rude or anything of that sort, if they're just like coming at me because I'm saying it's good or, oh, of course you're going to talk about this brand because they pay you. You know, it's like money is never anything that makes me go towards a brand to like them or not. I mean, it just so happens that all the brands that I do make financial income off of, I do like. But that's also because I go through the process of finding those brands because I want to mesh with that brand that I like. And before I go off on a tangent on that, I either delete the comments, I respond to them with the utmost positivity so that they get ticked off. Most of the time what happens if I respond positive, they block me. And I'm like, who lost? Who lost? It's pretty funny to me, actually. Like when their comment disappears, I'm like, all right.
Yeah,
me
kill 'em
being
with
Mr. Nice
kindness.
Guy. Yeah. So, yeah, you got to go through it. But just know, I see all of your negative comments. Can we get a zoom in here? I see all of them. And I don't like them.
Yeah, they're not nice. Be nice.
I'll delete them.
Yeah.
And I'll report you.
That's right. Watch out.
Bucko.
No, that's so true. But
Yeah.
it sounds like you've got it down to where you've been doing this long enough. You know how to handle it, and
Yeah.
just kind of is what it is. It's part of it, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's the internet. It's going to happen.
Yeah, it is the internet. So speaking of the internet and time, and I don't know where I'm going with this. Actually, I want to go back.
That's a great question, actually.
You're like, interesting. You would
The
ask.
internet and time, it's an endless circle.
Internet and time. So you're entirely a one-man show. Like you do it all.
Yeah, I'm getting to the point where I actually do content creation for people outside of the whiskey space, and I actually work with a gentleman also named Tyler, the Southern Craftsman on Instagram. He's a very talented woodworker in my hometown, and he hired me a couple years ago, and we've worked together so long that like we complete each other's sentences. And it's like we kind of have these same ideas, and we bounce ideas off of each other for content for my page and his page and so on and so forth. And we kind of just nerd out on social media. Mm-hmm. And I'm contemplating on working with him on a trade basis because he understands what angles I like because he sees my content and how we talk, and I know what he likes. So contemplating on drafting some help because a lot of these like on destination or on premise type posts that I want to do, be a lot better to not have to do it myself and or ask you to film me because you also have to do your job too.
Happy to help, Tyler. But yeah, no, I get it.
But yes, to date I am a one-man show, and I think that all goes back to my business ownership side. Mm-hmm. I am a huge tightwad. So when I quote somebody, I want to know that that's my chunk, or that's what I am charging for what I feel my worth is. Mm-hmm. And so it kind of just comes into what I'm doing now, where it's like, as some may say it's egotistical, but I feel that I'm the only one that truly knows how I want to be filmed. Just because I know my angles, got to get the angles.
Right.
And just know what I feel works.
Yeah.
I kind of hate that I answered it that way, but
I mean, it's true.
It is what it is.
No, I respect that because then what if you don't like it and then you've paid somebody to help you and then you have to start over?
Which is crazy because people pay me and I'm like, well, what if they don't like it? Like I am on the other end of that.
You're like, what if
it's
this is
super
terrible?
stressful. It definitely does not stress me out and keep me up at night at all.
I mean, I don't think that you probably run into that issue. I saw something recently where you had posted a brand where you had waited for like the right light and I can't remember the time that you had waited, but you can tell you put your heart and soul into what you're doing. So I'm sure that,
Yeah, we got a little cutway in our house there, and there's a window that looks out our backyard. And I started to notice at about 8:06, premium sunlight coming in through the backyard. So yeah, it was a cloudy day, and I was like, oh no, that sun's gonna pop. So at 7:30, I'm sweating absolute my entire body weight out there, and I have a table with bourbon set up, and I'm just shooting, and finally at, I think it was like 8:07, right on time, the sun popped out, and I got the shot that I've been waiting a week for, so.
And that's what it takes, It's not just like, oh, we talk to Brendan all the time. Like, isn't it easy? Just go out and take your photos. I'm kidding, Brendan. I know it's not. But it's like, it's that you may be thinking about something or you have this creative idea and you know the right direction. It's not just like snap the photo and go.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely times where luck comes into play,
Yeah.
Where it's like, oh, that bottle's perfect right there. Somehow the sun is at a great 45-degree angle, and damn, that looks good. But then there's some where you got to put in the work, too.
Got to work for it.
Yeah.
I respect that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of back to work and channels and all that, you and I talked about this a little bit earlier, but I want to know if there's anything you want to share about any certain connections you have made through any of your channels that have been memorable. Mm-hmm. We've talked about negative, so let's go positive. Like on the positive side, like what connections have you made that have been like, wow, without these outlets, I never would have met this person or had this experience? Or
Yeah, I think this is a part where I would talk more about connections that it's made outside of whiskey. in a crazy way. I mean, sure, again, I'm here today, great connection due to social media. I could say countless distilleries that I have been fortunate enough to make friends with some of these people, and have experiences that otherwise I wouldn't be able to have. But I'm a huge music person. Music is every day of my life. And specifically more in the hardcore metal genre. And so I made it a goal about 1.5 years ago that I wanted to try to combine what I'm doing with bourbon with that genre, and then kind of be a little bit more broad and do things just any genre, anybody that I listen to. Because I can also, I'll bop some Ariana Grande. I have no problem with that. We talked about T Swift earlier. Not necessarily heavily in the rotation, but like if she does come on, I'm not pissed off.
Okay,
You know what I mean?
I respect that.
But so really the connections that I've made that are truly memorable and like are tying me to certain bottles or moments are ones that I've shared with bands. There's a band, they're almost kind of like, I don't know what their genre is, they're like a synthwave indie rock trio, kind of ambient. They're called Cannons. That was my first like breakthrough with like a Grammy nominated band, you know, like huge band, 3 million plays a month, like touring the country, big across, you know, in the UK and everything. And what I've done is I find these bands and I follow the members of it. And I try to like deep dive on them and like see if they're into whiskey and if they have connections to those types of things. And then if they follow me back, I don't immediately slide in those DMs. I kind of play my cards right, you know, check out what they're into. And then when the moment's right, then I slide in there.
Strategy.
You know?
I like it.
So they were my first like, okay, I have confidence, I can do this. But yeah, I guess most recently there's this band from Louisville actually called Knocked Loose. They're a very big hardcore outfit, selling out their whole tour that they just did. But their drummer actually followed me, so I got to photograph their set for an interview that I'm doing with them later this month, or I guess in July rather. Did some content and actually got to hang out the whole evening with a band called Wage War. And that was simply incredible because, I mean, I never go into these things expecting them to want to hang out with me. I feel like I'm going to go in, I'm going to let them taste some whiskey and say, cool, go do your job, and I'll, you know, see you on the other side. But I got to hang out with them for like 6 hours, you know, so that was really cool. And then a big band called Portugal the Man, got to hang out with him at like way too late in the morning, or early in the morning, I guess, and then had to drive home 2 hours. But yeah.
But worth it, right? Like good
for sure.
times,
I mean,
yeah.
again, just now the bottles that I share with these people, I look at them differently when I have them, because it's like I got to share this with somebody that I listen to on a daily basis or have looked up to or whatever it may be. So yeah, that may not be the answer that a lot of people think, that they think it'd be like, oh, well, I did this with Heaven Hill or I did that with Jack Daniels or whatever. And sure, there was a lot of really cool moments there, but I think the core for me right now is those memories and those friendships I've made with the people outside of the industry. And just also just kind of wild that bourbon isn't just tying the bourbon world together, it's reaching out to other avenues that most people wouldn't think.
That was unexpected. That's really cool. I know that you have been in bands throughout your life and that music is really important to you. So yeah, why not try to tap in and cross with both of your interests? So that's incredible.
Yeah.
So whenever you slide up in those DMs, what kind of approach are we going with? Is it like a, hey, I'm Tyler, you want to hang out? Or like, what does that look like?
Typically what I make sure is that like, hopefully they've engaged with my content a little bit.
That comes back to you saying the right time.
Correct.
Okay.
Right. I play all the cards right. And this isn't some weird mind game. It's just, I don't want, like, I guess being in bands through the years and working with bands with photography side of things, I never want anyone to think like, oh, this dude's a super fan, you know, and some like creepy weirdo that just wants to drink bourbon with me or anything. I always want it to be a very casual experience because I want them to kind of approach me as like, oh, well, I want to ask him about questions about bourbon, just as much as I would like to know about their tour in, you know, the UK or wherever. And sure, I mean, I'm fans of these bands, but I'm not like some of the Swifties, you know, that are just like waiting in line. So,
like who?
Like
what?
bing, 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 you know. But yeah, it's just, what was the question? I got off track. I completely lost it.
I was just talking about you sliding up in their DMs.
Oh,
like
yeah,
what that
no,
approach
like,
looks
I don't really have like a main, opening liner or anything. I just kind of like sometimes if they post something on their story, I'll just comment on something about that. And then if they message back, then I'm like, okay, there's my foot in the door.
That's awesome.
Wow,
good for you. Way to go after those experiences that cross with like work and passion and fun and
I haven't found a way to make that something that I think is a profitable venture, but I think in life you need things that are just a pure pleasure thing that you want to do that's just pure happiness. And I think that's what that is for me. It's just like the memories that I've made and the connections I've made are priceless.
I agree, but you also never know when you make those connections, like what else that could lead to.
Right.
You never
I mean,
know.
it's I don't go into those thinking, this is a networking type thing. But like crazy enough, somebody that I've talked to in another band, they're like, hey, what do you charge to do content for products? And I've never talked to that person about anything of that side of me. So yeah, you truly never know what one connection unrelated to what you do could lead to what you do.
Right.
So bounce
You never
back and
know.
forth.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That kind of leads me into one of my next questions is, as far as bourbon and whiskey and like that whole industry, the whole world goes, like what is your favorite thing about this world? That's kind of open-ended. It could go a lot of different ways, but.
Two things.
Okay.
On a personal side, it is that I am the biggest introvert you'll ever meet, but you wouldn't know that because I showed you my emo phase within like 35 minutes of knowing you today.
I loved that. We connected like that. Yep, emos.
But yeah, elder emos. But it allows me to be extroverted with bourbon in hand or without. Just being in the environment of it opens me up. So that's the positive on the personal side. But on the grand scheme, it's just the overall community of it is priceless. I mean, you can go to any event where there's bourbon present and you can find somebody to talk to. Or things to share with people. Just all the experiences that come with it, I think, is truly what it comes back to for me is just the friendships and the lasting memories that you can make, all because of some brown water in a bottle.
Love that.
Yeah.
So that was number one. Was there a two?
The
or was
two-
that one and two?
Well, shit, hold on. Yeah, one was introverted being extroverted.
Oh, right, okay.
And then two was
I lost
the
track.
community.
Sorry,
I
can't
know.
count.
It's fine. I could have thrown a third in there probably. I could have confused you.
No, but yeah, I wouldn't have taken you for an introvert. So that's I mean, but it is. It's
Yeah,
like the community that you're comfortable in, and you meet people, and
Yeah.
That's awesome.
With my profession, I kind of force myself to have to be extroverted. Do I go home and just take a deep ass breath and then just sit there for like 25 minutes? Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's all good.
I mean, after you leave here, you'll probably be like, wow.
Oh no, that hotel is going to be 68 degrees and silent. Let
Yes.
me tell you.
Take that time.
That's right.
Yeah, once we get you out of the Brendan's bright lights and microphones and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
But that's part of the fun.
For sure.
Sitting down, getting to know you, and
Absolutely.
all that good
No,
stuff.
this is fantastic.
And I skipped over the cocktail portion because Brendan just set us out some options to
Listen,
choose
I am
from.
not mad.
And I'm
okay,
not
I'm sure
mad
your
either.
cocktails would have been great.
Hey, you get to taste them tomorrow. We got
Yeah.
some fun experimental ones
Yeah.
for the event tomorrow night.
Cool.
So that's a lot of prep's been going into those, so that you get to taste those tomorrow night. But yeah,
Fun cocktails.
But we just got all the new bourbons that
Yeah,
we got out right now at the distillery.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, this one is absolutely fantastic, which is the Toasted Sweet Ancient Cave Collection. That's incredible.
Pretty good. Well, and you stopped at the Welcome Center and had a cocktail. That was one place you did get to see. And Brendan does all of our cocktail menus.
Oh,
so
sweet.
those are his cocktails. So
Cool.
that was your holiday happy hour cocktail leading into here. But,
Okay, yeah.
I do have one more question for you. Speaking of cocktails, we always like to say, what would your favorite trash cocktail be? Like if it is a hot summer day and you're at a bar that has like 4 different mixers, or you don't even have to think about it,
Oh, yeah, I already know this. It's because I was talking with Joe earlier about this. I want the girliest cocktail you can give me.
Wow, okay.
Put some cotton candy on there.
Let's go.
I like shaved ice. I like blue. I like pink. Put some peach in there. Don't give a shit. I want it to be sugar in a glass.
You don't even have to be on a beach. You're just
Oh,
like,
dude, I can be
give me the sugar.
in a carpeted living room watching reruns of Family Feud. Don't give a shit. Just give me that sweet, sweet nectar.
I mean, own
Don't
it.
even have to be bourbon in it. But I
Okay.
do love bourbon, though.
Obviously, but if you're gonna drink good bourbon, like drink good bourbon.
I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, I love a good old fash, right? But I love a good fruity, Tootsie Fruit cocktail.
Own it, Tyler. That's amazing.
No shame. No
What
shame
was
at
the
all.
cocktail you got at the Welcome Center then?
The Devil's something or
Oh,
other.
Devil's
Devil's
Pool.
Pool.
Which was
it's gonna get the fruity.
had some tart. Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, so yeah, that's the one I went with, and it was fantastic.
It was fantastic. We were inching into noon. We were like, okay, let's have a cocktail, something light. It's perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, and here we are.
And here we are.
Here we are. Well, Tyler, is there anything else before we sign off here that you want the Holiday Happy Hour community to know?
I don't think so.
I just put you on the spot.
Yeah. Come on.
I know.
Well,
No,
on that note,
on
guys,
that note.
roll the footage.
Yep.
We're out.
No, it's been super fun. I've learned a lot about you in the last 30 minutes, and now we get to hang out for the next couple of days. So
Yeah, this is gonna be.
it'll be fun.
This is gonna be a weekend to remember for sure.
Awesome.
Speaking of experiences, this is gonna be one that will be up in the mental brain there.
This is one of them.
Yep.
Well, thank you for being here.
Yes, absolutely. Thanks again for the invite. This is
Cheers.
great. Yep.
Holiday Happy Hour is a production of the Holladay Distillery, Weston, Missouri. Drink responsibly, drive responsibly.